Card Designer V2. So there are improvements in the UX features to make things work. Now, to give you a bit about the context, let's just recap quickly on the Viva Connection. Again, the Viva Connection is really the home for daily employee experiences across all of the 3 screens. So mobile, tablet, and a desktop. And doesn't matter which one you're using, you will always see the same application, same tooling, all of that in place. A key point here is that we really want to have one location where people can go to access the most commonly used tools, the most commonly used information for that particular role. And that's really how we're approaching the Viva Connection. Now, within Orlando last week, we did have a great slide done by Ed Everett on what is the difference between a top intranet and Viva Connection. And this actually probably explains the difference in positioning in a bit more detail. They're not competitors. They're intended to be used at the same time. If you think about the intranet, we're heading to this pixel perfect storytelling. And what it means is that the intranets will look like the company. They're almost like a .com sites, the public brand. So they're really pushing that boundary on making the your company brand visible within the intranet landing page, of course, surfacing relevant information for end users and all of that. But it might not be as condensed, the information, so it's more design first because it's all about the company brand. You can navigate the entire company, search the entire company, tailored news directly for you. Now, the Viva Connection is then a bit different approach. That is intended to be your personal application. So rather than just corporate communication, it's your commonly used applications and tooling. So really the personal news and community news, employee experiences centered apps. So basically, let's say requesting a vacation or time off, or what you need help, or you need to see your payslip details. The Viva Connection would be that location where you would go in any device what you have, and you would be able to access that directly through the Teams. And then there's a lot of additional opportunities within that side as well. And of course, it has a connection to the intranet, but it's not the pixel perfect brand first intranet, more about, again, you as a persona accessing relevant information for you. So they are really intended to be looked and used together for the best possible experience for both sides. So kind of a balancing the corporate communications together with the employee experiences and the personal point of view to your brand, to your personal access and personal information, what's relevant for you. Cool. Now, common use cases on the Viva Connection. Since I have a few times, I can actually do a bit of this. So, of course, these are really intended to be the employee tools and applications. So your base stop and benefits, what's the relevant information? Say IT support, ticketing, really, really typical thing. Time of request, travel expenses. You quickly go to that one UI rather than remembering what was the system where I do time of request or T&E or travel or weather or stock vesting or whatever. I will know that every single relevant application within my company can be found from Viva Connection. Click from one location, you will land on all of the relevant applications for you. Frontline workers scenarios, quite a lot of people are not working in front of the desktops, and that's why the tablet and mobile experiences are definitely there available. And of course, I tend to actually use Viva Connection quite often when I'm sitting on my living room couch, which is not necessarily a good thing. I'm not saying that you should be watching a Viva Connection when you're off, not working, but that's just how I am. Maybe I'm broken by Microsoft. Who knows? Don't quote me on that one, by the way. But anyway, you can access the information in any device super easily, and that's available for you. And of course, career growth, learning development, all of that as news announcements still available on that side as well, making it easy to access the relevant information. Thank you, David, on that key animation in the chat. For those who have a functioning chat in this call. Call is having a bit of a challenges today. Now, Viva Connection is a platform as well. So you're able to build ACs. ACs are those individual cards. There's multiple ways of doing those ACs. You can do them using SharePoint framework, or you can implement bot-powered ACs. And bot-powered ACs is really for the Teams ISVs who have already invested in Teams. To default, the best experience for development is really SharePoint framework. So you have that full flexibility on rendering things, and we provide more flexibility there in the future. Now, we are also, we want to provide also the card dashboard designers or operators the option to implement simple cards. And what we mean with that one is that we want to have that option of not requiring code for these cards as well. You can have a low code technically no-code option to hit a Graph API endpoint and surfacing relevant information for the user. So you can actually build these things directly without the code for the Viva connection. And that's basically our card designer capability. So it's really targeted for citizen developers and power users. It's powered by the SharePoint data behind the scenes, powered by the Microsoft Graph. Both of those data endpoints are available to hit from an API perspective to collecting information and surfacing that information. Supports full admin governance, so you can admins can control what are those applications which are available. Enhance authoring experience is the thing what we're going to talk about today, and foundation for future integration. So we're looking into having additional integration options within the card designer in future. There's a lot of exciting stuff in the roadmap related on no-code options within the Viva connection as well. Not forgetting about the pro developer story at all, but it's good to empower no-code scenarios as well. Now, this is the set of guidance what we used to have, which is still a bit still valid. So we do have UX guidance available for you to take advantage on how to design those adaptive card. We do have the customized options at the adaptive card designer at adaptivecards.io/designer, and then you are able to use the card designer to actually power dynamic capabilities even directly within the Viva connection. Now, the try it section, however, has been changed, and this is now starting to roll out. It was gradually already rolling out last week. We found a small bug. It was rolled back, but it starts again rolling out within a week or two. So you will have the more polished card designer capability available within May. Latest on June, but it is starting to roll out, and it's much more polished experience for you to take advantage. We're going to have a look on this one in a live demo in a second. We're going to build exactly what we can see here because this is from my demo test directly. But I'm going to walk through the bits and pieces and options as we go through that together in a second. But really the power here is that we have that advanced API support in the card designer like we had in the previously. This is a capability which the tenant administrator has to enable because it's an API powered capability, but it actually provides a lot of power for the card designers or the operators who are building the dashboard. So you can really easily build capabilities like my upcoming meetings, my latest emails, or much more complex scenarios as well. So hitting an API endpoint and surfacing relevant information depending on what is the use case, whatever you have. Now, only administrator-approved Microsoft Graph APIs are available to be used, so there is an admin level approval on the API level as well, so you can control which of those APIs are available. And like I said, the V2 experience is rolling out in May, June 2024 worldwide. Now, let's actually have a live demo on that one, so we can walk through the different options and capabilities and also assets which are available for you to take advantage. Let me actually find the right browser. It is this browser. We're going to use a how would I put it, internal test tenant. So the capability is already available. And again, this capability is not yet lighted up for you. And we're going to use this test E3. That is a really good name for the tenant, test E3. But it's super clear that it's a test tenant. Again, it starts rolling out relatively soon for you to take advantage. So this is kind of an early teaser on what's coming. It is a blank page right now. I'm going to put page in edit mode. I'm going to start by selecting my card designer in here. It's a bit boring demo because we're only kind of focused now on the card designer capabilities. I don't have a showcasing of beautiful looking designs, but of course with Viva Connection in general, you can really build cool-looking industry experiences. So this is something what we showed, for example, last week in the Orlando. That's a bit simplified one. Let me go a bit more complicated one, for example, for airlines or for retail. We're looking into having a sample guidance and assets for you to take advantage of building really kind of a dynamic dashboard. That's more in the future community calls, not on this one. But this is more on showcasing you how the dashboard could look like, for example, in an airline case. And you can imagine that the person walks directly in their plane and then knows more details about the people who are sitting in which chair and all of that stuff within their mobile device, not necessarily using desktop, because I wouldn't be carrying my desktop with me if I'm a steward in a plane. Now, just a quick teaser. We're going to go a bit more detailed on the industry templates in another time, but that's just an excuse so I can actually show you a super simplified dashboard design, and we kind of focus now on the card designer V2. Thank you, Steve, on the comment on the chat. Yes, it's test, so it's a double the best of the normal test environment. It's the test of the test. So anyway, so in here, I moved in the cart to a cart designer. So one thing to notice, to be able to use the advanced capabilities, we will need to set this particular setting in the tenant level to true. And this can be set using the SPO PowerShell or BMP PowerShell. Both of them obviously have that option available to be set. It's basically then enabling the API-powered capabilities within a tenant. Nothing has changed from there if you're familiar with the V1 experience of this one, but that's not really the new thing. The new thing being actually the designer, which is much more nicer to work on, and we can see the live design in here. So I could do something like, let me go and select a custom image. Let's change the custom image. Let's do a stock image, and let's search for meetings. I guess we'll have some meetings, meeting stuff here. What would be a nice meeting picture? That's a nice meeting picture. That's a nice meeting picture. Let's take that one. Oh, that went to the small one. No, that wasn't my intention. I can actually do, let's take a calendar on that one. There we go. And then when do I, there's the custom image selection. That's what I was trying to do with the image selections. Let me go in here. Let me go calendar. And then we can choose a nice looking calendar image from the ones which are available. There we go. Now it looks so much nicer already. So I have the live preview all the time as I'm writing this, how it will look like. So I can say my meetings, and then I can say, so my meetings as the action. And then we can choose what's going to happen when we click the card. Are we going to show what kind of layout do we want to use, an image, or do we want to use buttons? Do we want to use descriptions? So there's multiple layers available from where we can adjust that based on our business requirements. The image is actually pretty okay. Now, then I can choose what happens when I click the card. So when I click the card, what's going to happen? I'm going to choose now show a quick view, which is now the interesting piece. And that is basically then showing the information what we're going to hit in the API. So show quick view. And scrolling down, we can target the card to be available in a specific group of people. We're not going to do that. All good. I'm going to click next. And then we are in that nice UI designer and card designer where we can start planning on what we will actually make this look like. Hello world, or the people in the call, and it's actually having that live preview there in place. Now, I will cheat, and I do apologize on that one, but I will show you. Not there. I will put that one down. That wasn't my intention. Let's put that one over there. So I will cheat, but I will show you where you can get my demo assets because those are available for you as well. So static content right now, or I could say dynamic content. So I can actually select, is the content when I'm clicking the card or in the quick view, is it actually rendering in a static format or is it dynamic content? I want to have it dynamic because we want to hit an API endpoint, and then I want that to render the UX based on the information which is relevant for the particular user. So it's not static. Nobody needs to update that. It's rendering based on the user information. Now, really cool here is also that we have two different endpoints. We do have Microsoft Graph API endpoints available and SharePoint APIs. So depending on a use case, you could hit a SharePoint API. Microsoft Graph is probably the best documented API in the world. I guess there's probably some which are better, but still it's really well documented, and you can use the Graph Explorer to figure out what are the endpoints which you can hit and the use cases. A lot of inspiration can be got from there. So we're going to use Graph API as a permission, and then we can set which endpoint to actually do things. Now, before I do that, let me actually go in here and let me show you where we are. Let me open up Visual Studio Code. And let me show you where we are in here. So in the GitHub, in the SB Dev Docs repo, we have an asset folder and we have an ACE folder. And from this folder, I will show you this in practice, so you're not wondering, on wait, where was that? Let me go SB Dev Docs. That is our documentation location. And in here right now, at least, we haven't actually put them anywhere else. We have an asset folder. And then we have ACE folder, ACE meaning the adaptive card extension. And we are hosting 2 different images here and 2 different JSON files as an example, rendering UXs, which we can use to demonstrate the power of the adaptive, the card designer. So now in my case, I'm going to go to Visual Studio Code. I'm going to take the events quick view JSON. I'm going to copy that one. It's 1.5 version of the adaptive card. Somebody was asking that in the chat. And thank you, Alex, for answering that. Then I lost again my screen. The screen is somewhere. It's in here. Here we go. And I will paste in the template JSON, and it will render me the high-level view on how it will look like. And we can actually see that we have a repeater here on that section. Let's see if I can actually find it in here easily, or I could actually take this one, and I could absolutely go also to the adaptive card designer. I can select here Viva Connection, and I can paste in my design in here, so I can actually have a look on how it would look like in a designer. So then I have a much nicer space of looking into how to render things. I can adjust the layout, I can adjust things, and there we can see there's items. So that's kind of hinting you on what we're going to do there. And what we're going to do basically is list all of the calendar invites. If the calendar invite has Teams information in it, it will have the Teams icon to join directly to the Teams meeting from there. And if it doesn't, it will still have the calendar icon to open up the calendar insights from the Outlook. So it will have a deep linking support to those calendars. And we can at least absolutely adjust the settings if needed. We're not going to do that today, but that gives you the option of how to do that. Now, coming back in here, we're looking into dynamic content. We wanted to hit the Graph API to get information from the particular user. I'm going to again cheat and go and copy paste the URL, the API endpoint. I think I have it actually in here. I had a URL, and I'm going to copy that one. I'm going to paste in that one in here. And as I move away from that section or fill in the entries, it will execute the API. And then we will have an automatic validation. Was the API which I provided valid or was it not valid? Now, if we haven't provided permissions for this API endpoint, it will basically say, permissions are not granted. You cannot hit this API. If it has the permissions granted, like in our case, then it will hit the endpoint and it will get results which are in here. And then that will be rendered on the left side on the screen in here. Now, what it's actually pretty cool, I haven't tested this, but this should work. So let me go in here, copy the whole data structure, go to the adaptive card in here. Oh, that one. There, that's where we had the designer, and paste in the data point. And we should get the UX to render if we go to preview. Where is our preview mode? There's preview mode. Clicking that one, and I can actually see how it will look like for that particular data. So now what we see here is the adaptive card designer, the layout, and the data. And then I can start modifying things in this designer based on my business requirements. That's actually pretty cool. So that works nice. Cool. Getting back in here again, I can also see the layout and design and a preview. Of course, here I can make sure that everything is working. Before we click, well, actually, let's click save, and then we can see that in practice. Clicking save, closing. Let's do preview. There is our awesome card. Yeah, got it. Awesome card. When I click that one, it will actually show me all of my upcoming meetings. Apparently, David, we do have a lunch coming up on tomorrow. I need to start flying over pretty soon. But all of the meetings from my calendar, and these are coming directly from my calendar, so I can actually then click and do a direct clicking. That's actually interesting. That's definitely into my design. I did a mistake there. The deep linking isn't working properly here, but these are all coming from the calendar invites, which I have in my personal calendar. So now you can imagine that for all of the end users, they can actually always click the meetings and they will see the upcoming meetings, and they can also join potentially those meetings or deep link to the meeting details directly from Viva Connection. So you can again imagine that we surface relevant information to a single view, and we could click of a thumb, because in the mobile, you can then easily access all of the information which is available, which is pretty cool. Yes, I'll pay for the lunch, David. Whenever I will be around in LA, that I think it was 2014 when I've been last time in LAX. It's been a while. Maybe I should actually come over. Now, a few things to notice here. We talked about the APIs, which is working here. The reason, again, why this API endpoint is working is that that particular API has been granted to be used and hit by the APIs and the SharePoint framework. Now, this is might be a bit confusing, but let me try to explain this. So, as an admin, you will need to grant APIs which are available for SharePoint framework, and the same permissions will be then granted or followed by the card designer. Now, we are definitely looking into having feedback around this one. So should we have another application? Should we do something else? Right now, those permissions which have been granted for SharePoint Framework Solutions are the ones which can also hit directly within the card designer. Now, these are, let's see, how do we actually get to these? I'm in a SharePoint Admin Center, and I'm in a preview environment. So the preview environment has interesting features, so don't worry about that one. So I'm in the admin center, and now if I click advanced and I can see API access, then I can actually see those APIs which have been granted, or the APIs which are pending to be granted. Apparently somebody has been installing Lightning tools, Lightning Conductor in here to see all of the permissions which are granted. Now, technically, behind the scenes, what happens, let me actually move that sharing screen away from a bit. These permissions which are granted in the Entra ID. So if I go to my admin, Microsoft.com, and then if I go to Microsoft Entra, and then in the Microsoft Entra, and we can actually find that individual application. This is really for the security details, how this actually works, app registrations, and now if I go, we already flashed there. If I go to all application, we can actually see the SharePoint Online Client Extensibility Web Application Principle, super descriptive name. And this is the one which the SharePoint framework is actually using. So this, whenever we are granting anything in a SharePoint admin API center in here, behind of the scenes, it is actually granting those permissions. There we go, to this particular application. So now if we go to API permissions, we can actually see that we have the calendar suite information available. So just walking through the different dependencies and all of that around the permission things. Of course, granting permission, deciding which permissions will be available and granting those permissions is a more administrative operation, not a end user or a dashboard operator capability. So there has to be that individual discussion within the company, what are the permissions which we grant, and then how does that will work. Now, a few things to notice here. These are really scary looking things. For example, here it says files read all for permission. However, it says delegated, and super critical thing to understand. When we use delegated, it doesn't not mean that I have permissions within my card designer to access all of the files. No. It's basically my permissions grant. It's delegated permissions, the permissions for this application and the permissions which I have. So I cannot access any files or read any other calendar information which I do not have permissions to, because again, it's delegated. Now, if it would not be delegated, if it would be granted as a full alternative options, then you can access the permissions using the app owner permissions. But really key point, understand delegation is critical to understand. If I'm granting calendar read or files read all, the delegated permission means that it's only those files which I have permissions, not all of the files within a tenant. Critical to remember. Cool. I guess we're starting to be pretty okay on covering all of the different features, capabilities. Just out of curiosity, if I do here emails, is it mails? I can't remember. Here we go. We can see that it's trying to hit endpoints which are not available, and it actually tells me what's available. How does it actually work? Mail is available. That's valid endpoint. I can do things. Now, how would you figure out what would be interesting things to do? You can absolutely go to the Graph Explorer or go to the Graph documentation, and in here you're going to have a look on all of the different API endpoints which we have available, personal contacts, for example, my contacts would be a really great example. And if I run query, well, that one doesn't actually have the right permissions yet on the contacts. We need to grant them. Not going to spend too much time in here, but I can definitely use the Graph Explorer to have a look on the inspiration on all of the information which the user could get access to. And then we can need to figure out what are the permissions, for example, contacts read, which I need to grant to be able to access that information. I know that this particular user doesn't have any contacts. No point for me to consenting that endpoint because we are in a test environment. And then maybe a final thing also to call out, there's a lot of adaptive card design examples available in multiple different locations. So a really good example being this PMP adaptive card templates, beautiful looking card designers, card designs, which are available for you to take advantage. You'll just go to the samples and then have a look on, for example, security alert. And oh, that's an interesting thing. You can take that JSON design or you can open that JSON design directly in Designer. You can modify that based on your business requirements, and then you can take that directly and copy that to the dashboard, and voila, you've done a beautiful looking cards, beautiful looking designs without any code, which is pretty cool. Empowering everybody to do more, right? That's the slogan of Microsoft.